Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are here and it's another episode of the Racing Debrief. And today we gotta talk about Dover. Dover is what's going on, right? So of course you had Xfinity and you had Cup Series at Dover. Pretty light week compared to some of our other episodes of the Racing Debrief that we've had. So Dover was interesting. It's one of those tracks that tends to put on decent racing. I wouldn't say it's all time excitement that I look forward to, but Dover's solid, right? And I think having one race a year at Dover adds to it for sure. I think that seeing a lot of tracks with that is beneficial. I think that one race a year is the way we should be going with a lot of tracks. So I actually did make an article about that. If you want to check that out, it's on my website, epicw.net, and it is on X as well. So check that out. I kind of dive into that a little bit. But yeah, I think Dover having one race a year is solid. So what I think about it, I think the Xfinity race was very exciting. The Xfinity race there was interesting to watch, trying to piece together what I've seen from it, because typically I'm working Saturdays, unless it's like a really, really important race. I just noticed some stuff. I got distracted by it. I sort of cleaned my desk, change things up a little bit. So I'm trying to clean it. Basically, push the computer back because I gotta get my keyboard for writing articles. So adjusted things a little bit. So noticed some dust. Got distracted. Yeah, basically for those races that are on Saturdays, especially, I tend to not get to watch them in the same way as I would the Cup race because again, I'm typically working on Saturday. I only take Saturday off if it's like a really, really important race that I want to see. So for the most part, I typically watch it in pieces, right? So that was one of the things with Dover. I watched it in pieces. So trying to piece together all of that is fun. So start off Dover. I was actually again trying not to use my phone at work. Don't want to check Twitter and see who won the race. So the race started about 1:30. So about 7 o'clock, I finally got to watch it. Went on my lunch break, sat in the car, put it on my phone, and watched actually a good amount of it just from the fact that able to fast forward through ads and cautions. And the main thing for the Xfinity race was the threat of rain, right? The radar was showing a lot of rain. Definitely something they get to the halfway point, but how much past that would they get? That was a big factor in it. I mean, you could see even when the race started that it was cloudy. There was definitely rain coming. So, the beginning of the race, Justin Allgaier pretty much dominated most of that. And the second stage, a decent amount from Cole Custer, and a few cautions here or there, a little bit of excitement with that. But the end of stage 2 means the race is official, right? In NASCAR races before, it used to always be just the halfway point. With stages, it kind of became whatever happens first. That was a change when they introduced stage racing in 2017. So in the case of that race, it was 90 laps of the 200 because stage 2 ended at lap 90. So from there is when the intensity picked up because again, the rain could come at any time. If it's super, super heavy, the race is going to end. So a lot of strategy getting Cole Custer in the lead. Everybody trying to stay out. Everybody keeps just staying out. Eventually, rain does come. I believe it was about lap 150. Had to be somewhere around there. Wasn't too heavy, though. It was definitely, not bad. So it was enough that, they had a little bit of delay, which I was able to fortunately fast forward through, and get back racing. So from then on, again, the threat of rain's still there. It's not like it's just one storm. It can pop up at any time and again end the race. So a lot of intensity throughout it, which created a lot of excitement, a lot of I'm not going to give you a spot. Not a lot of that going on. It's definitely going to be, I'm going to full send. I'm going to take this spot. So yeah, you just had a lot of movement through the field again, cautions, pitting. Cole Custer pit went to the back, and that really shook things up as well. Having him back there, Allgaier kind of got moved back in the field a little bit. So with those two out of the picture, it really opened up for other drivers to come up to the front. You had Sheldon Creed, Carson Quapple both up there. Really cool to see Carson Quapple lead a few laps. That was awesome. And, see Sheldon Creed towards the front. I want to see him get that first win. I think a lot of people do. So it's just unfortunate to once again see him come up short in second place. A lot of it comes down to Austin Hill and his driving standard and his absolute dislike of Sheldon Creed. But just the way he races in general is not really favored by people. I think there's a lot of drivers that you see in NASCAR that maybe don't have the most fans, but I think Austin Hill in general, I haven't really seen anybody that says I'm an Austin Hill fan in an online like space. I haven't seen that in any way from any commenters online. I mean, it's just not something that I've seen. There hasn't been positive uh, reaction to Austin Hill from NASCAR fans. I think it's one of those things that he's overall a generally dislikable person as a driver. So again, I don't know how he is personally, but from the way he acts, the way he conducts himself, he seems like a dick. So I think in the race restart when Sheldon Creed gets by him, passes him clean. Of course, they had issues in 2023. They had issues when Sheldon Creed was at RCR. That's known. But when it comes to the way they raced, I think that's super, super telling overall, right? I think that you look at it and Sheldon Creed passes Austin Hill clean for the lead. And Austin Hill, second he gets to him, bumps Creed out the way. I think it's immature and unfortunate. I think that when you look at those scenarios, right, drivers have had issues with each other throughout forever in racing. It's just how it works. It's the nature of how it goes. But I feel like at some point you got to be mature enough and let it go and know the moment to do it, right? And I think in that scenario wasn't really it, right? I think that for Austin Hill just to bump him out the way when he passed him clean, Sheldon Creed clearly just wants to move on from that situation. Austin Hill seems to be the one that continues to instigate the situation. And I think last year, Austin Hill was the one that brought that upon himself more than Sheldon Creed doing anything. I think Sheldon Creed's going for a win, and Austin Hill, wanted to race him a certain way and, took the chance away from both of them to win in Martinsville. And I think that, again, seeing that at Dover, just the way Austin Hill acted towards Creed on track, and then to go into his post-race interview and basically blame everybody else is a bit immature. In the end, Austin Hill spun himself out, which is hilarious. So after that, Carson Quapple looks like he's gonna win, but a late race caution. Or that was the late race caution. Was Austin Hill spinning out again? Carson Quapple has the lead, looking like he's in a good spot. But in the end, he got past. Ryan Truex went on to win Dover for 2 years in a row now. He's won at Dover, and honestly, it's cool to see him get another win. It's an interesting scenario though of what's going to happen for Ryan Truex next. I mean, that's 2 years in a row to go win that race. I feel like somebody has to say, we want you in this team, right? We want you in our cars. Some sponsor's going to want to step up and have him there. I mean, 2 years in a row is impressive. He has one with just Toyota as his sponsor both times. So that's kind of showing a little bit of that. But maybe, a sponsor for Ryan Truex wants to step up and do something. Who knows? Clearly, Ryan Truex initially got an opportunity at Joe Gibbs. I'm assuming I'm not going to say it's fully facts, but assumably because of his brother racing for Joe Gibbs in the Cup Series that, you know, he got an opportunity. So, at that point, though, to win 2 races, Toto to say, no, we like this guy. I mean, I think Ryan Truex is a solid driver. Joe Gibbs Racing has 4 cars they're running in Xfinity, but only 2 are full time. They got Sheldon Creed in the 18, Chandler Smith in the 81. You have the 19 and the 20 that they're running, but different drivers every week. So, maybe next season that lines up and they say, Ryan Truex, you can be full time in the 20 or in the 19, whatever car. 20 was the full time car last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if 20 is the one they use. Again, that's the main Joe Gibbs number, always has been. So, maybe they say 20 is the full time car you get to race, and then just random drivers on 19 like it sort of has always been. Who knows? I'd like to see it, though. I think he could do good. I mean, obviously, winning at Dover, if he was full time, he'd be in the playoffs. So that's the goal, ultimately, is to make the playoffs. So I think that's something to look out for. Cup Series. Damn. I think it's a consistent statement. I know Mom said it to me during the race. Saturday's race is better. I think that's a general consensus from a lot of people, is that the Xfinity Series has been better. And I don't want to spend a whole video going into that, because I don't think this week was the worst for the Cup Series and worst for the next gen car. I don't think it was. I think there's been weeks that have been way worse. I think that it gets to be a situation, though, where consistently your second series has performed the best. I think it's one of those things that you got to look at that, and I just hope NASCAR does something at some point, because, you can't have your best series consistently be your second level. It's not good, right? It's not beneficial. Again, Saturday races have been brilliant, but it's just not the best, because it's not going to bring in fans, right? If you're trying to build the sport, add sponsors, keep a consistent building of the fan base and growing of the sport, and trying to not get back to levels that NASCAR was at in the early 2000s, but at least improve from where the sport was in 2018, when it felt like the bottom. And there has been momentum, right? I think since 2020, we've seen that momentum build. We've seen that increase. And I think it's only gotten better this year. But how long can you have mediocre races? And how long can you have the fan base, the hardcore fans, saying it was okay, right? It's going to do damage that you are trying to undo. So I just hope they do something. Again, I don't think it was as bad as what we've seen, Martinsville or Phoenix, right? Or even a little bit of Richmond. I don't think it was to that level. But I do think it's one of those things that something needs to improve. I think that the way the cars have gone to just being so low, and the diffusers on the back clearly haven't helped, and the tires being so big, I think all just play into a factor that the cars just don't have that ability that they used to have, right? It was so much a track position that you kind of saw guys stay where they were, right? Kyle Larson moved to the field. Chase Elliott moved to the field. I can't really think of anybody else who moved more than 5 spots, right? Without just, working your way up a little bit here and there. Like, they gained chunks of time, Larson and Elliott. They were moving through the field. Chase Elliott started about 30th, 29th, 30th, somewhere in that range, and he moved his way up to finish 5th. Kyle Larson started about 20th, and he finished 2nd. So those guys moved to the field, but just trying to think of other names that you really seen move through based on pure speed. I think Ty Gibbs went from 18th to 10th. It took him 40 laps to pass Ross Chastain at the end of the race. Martin Truex had a damaged car from the front end of it. It was still a good car, but nobody got by him. He didn't fall back. He just sort of stayed where he was. You had Daniel Hemrick and Noah Gragson get top 10 finishes based on strategy. Shout out to them. Hemrick getting a top 10 is not something we expected. But, seeing Hemrick lead when the caution came out, I believe it was probably the last caution of the race, came out, he was the leader, able to pit, cycle through, be right towards the front. It's one of those things that it's great, it's brilliant, it's cool for him. But, he didn't really drive to that spot, so those guys moving up don't really count, right? So I think when you look at it, there wasn't much movement through the field. And, I think you had a lot of air blocking, which again, that's been a thing for a while, but I think it's very prevalent when it's for the race for the lead. I think we had a good battle in the end between Hamlin and Larson, but again, the air blocking, Hamlin was able to go up and just say, oh, sorry, you're not going to get by him on the high side. Oh, low side. Obviously that's how racing works, but the aerodynamics, I feel like, of these cars are just so insane. And I think it just shows the technological advancement, right? I think that ultimately hurts racing in the same way it helps, right? It's not like when you had one team back in the 60s that could just win every single race because they just spent more money. But it's also not like it was in the 2000s when, you had a lot of teams that could spend a lot of money, but they also had enough technology that you had more people competitive. Now it's just everybody spends the same amount of money to get to the same technology level that's so advanced that once you hit that level, it's not going anywhere. Especially being almost spec series. It's not spec series, but it's pretty damn near close to it. You end up in a situation where it's just going to be the best cars in the top spot all the time, right? We've seen that. The Toyotas this year have been brilliant. Hendrick Motorsports has been brilliant. And they've just dominated it, but also been in a spot where they can't really get past each other. Whatever one's in the front's in the front. Whether it's Hamlin and Truex that were up there, or if it's Kyle Larson that's up there, or William Byron before he crashed. Those drivers were the top 4 most of the day, and they couldn't really get by each other. Reddick tried to get by him a little bit. He couldn't. He's also in a Toyota that's solid, right? It's been pretty much Gibbs and Hendrick with a little bit of 2311 in there with Charlie Reddick. That's pretty much been the season, right? A good amount of it has just been those two teams because they've hit a point where they're so good that nobody's going to be able to really get past them, and they can't get past each other. So add that to the next gen car, nobody can pass. So again, I think that we had some solid battles, we had some solid racing, but I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I would just say it's kind of lame. It's kind of unfortunate, but expected. That's kind of where I'm at. I think when you go into these races, I don't know what to expect or what to say anymore. Except for it's another week of next gen mediocrity, right? It's the same thing. So I hope they change something with it, but yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm basically at the point where it's the same every single week, but I feel like this week wasn't maybe as bad. Again, I feel like it was a little bit more entertaining, but I seen a post on Twitter that said the next gen car's gotten worse, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I feel like this year has made it worse. I think we saw in 2022 almost every week was brilliant besides Martinsville, right? That stands out from 2021. Most of the time was pretty good. Martinsville, Phoenix, everywhere else is pretty solid. But it feels like that's kind of creeping into some of the other tracks now where it's not as good. So hopefully next week at Kansas, things will be good. But who knows? One last thing to finish off with for North Wilkesboro, Kevin Harvick's going to be back, at least practicing in the 5 car because Kyle Larson's doing qualifying for the Indy 500 all through May. He's going to be doing a lot of stuff at Indy. So Kevin Harvick's going to at least be practicing that car, and I'm so excited. I've been more excited for practice. I'm be honest. I put it out there. I don't know if he's been practicing qualifying, maybe since they're kind of connected. I said I've not been looking forward to practice and qualifying that much or been that excited about it. As you guys know, if you've seen videos on this channel, Kevin Harvick is my all-time favorite driver. So I know it's only been since November that he retired, but I'm so excited when I seen that he would just be practicing. I mean, obviously he's not going to do the race. He's not going to do a cup race. I know that that's a fact. But just to see him drive the car, I cannot wait. That's going to be so exciting. I'm looking forward to practice. Who would have thought? We're looking forward to practice in a few weeks for the All-Star race. So with that, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And we'll see you guys in the next one.